So, I want to bring it up now because how dare you?
How dare me?
How dare you? The Matrix was just okay.
The Matrix Redux was just okay. We talked in another podcast about how I had watched an hour of it. I was tired, went to sleep, and it was okay up until that point. So I was looking forward to watch the rest of it and see it give me a reason why they made it beyond the fact that they had to, or they were going to remake it with Chris Pratt or whoever, like Warner Brothers would do eventually, or Michael B. Jordan, maybe. I don't know. They might have went in a different route. And it really just didn't really give me that. I just don't know why it would be. I would prefer to watch the original because I feel like this was just a step-by-step redo of it. And then my issues with it is Neil Patrick Harris has just the word, ugh. Let's just hear him talk for 20 minutes and try to explain. So lame. And whenever anyone picks up an apple or a piece of fruit and does anything with it, it's because they don't know what the fuck to do with the actor.
With their hands.
Yes, because they have so much to say. This happens, I guarantee you. I can only think of one other example, but this happens often. They try to busy themselves because they know they have horrible long dialogue that they got to get through. In the Loki finale with the guy who played Kang the Conqueror, he's eating an apple at the very end when he's trying
Jonathan
to explain
Majors,
everything.
I think. Yeah, but yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I spotted immediately. When he had an apple in his hand, I was like, oh, fuck. We're going to be in for 20 minutes of dialogue now, and it's going to suck. And that's exactly what I felt with Neil Patrick Harris. It was horrible. And also, Trinity, hey, let's wait an hour and a half, 2 hours before she actually is used in any way whatsoever. And then at the end, they try to pretend like she's just as important as Neo, and yet they did nothing with her for like 2 hours. So those things really stood out to me, and Lana Wachowski clearly had no interest in making this and made it very clear, but did it anyways. So those are my issues, which didn't make it a bad movie. There was no reason for it to exist as a sequel, which we talk about sequels all the time. It just didn't stand out why it would even be worth your time. That's all.
Well, we are going to put a nice bow on that conversation when we get towards the end of this episode. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grandmothers of all ages, we love you, to this episode of Aaron and Justin Talk Sequels. Today, I'm not going to introduce Aaron, screw him. Today we're talking about the 2017 follow-up to the 1996 film Trainspotting. Yes, we're talking T2, a movie... Trainspotting, a movie titled after another movie just to annoy their director.
I guess so, yeah.
Which is...
T2.
Like, when did T2 come out?
91, I think. Yeah.
I mean, he went into a lot of detail.
As in Terminator 2.
About how Terminator couldn't sue them. And so
I didn't read any of this. That's interesting. But let me just say, thank you for letting me go on a rant about The Matrix, and then you don't even follow up. You just say, I'll get back to that later.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to that later.
You just left me blue balls. I don't know what your problem is here. You don't do that to somebody.
That is my right. Okay.
That's some bullshit.
So we're talking Trainspotting. This is a movie you picked for some reason.
The one we did before this, if the audience hears it in order, was Bad Lieutenant, which I did pick. And Justin says, this is how you know it's an Aaron pick, because it's depressing as hell. So what do you pick the next week? Trainspotting. A mindful, or mind you, an uplifting portrayal, but still inherently very depressing. However, with the fanciful, fun editing of Danny Boyle movies, you wouldn't know it from the outside.
This was my fault, and Trainspotting was a movie that I remembered mostly for its more famous scenes. I remembered Spud shitting the bed. I remembered Ian McGregor's dong, obviously.
Who wouldn't?
But past those two scenes, I don't know if teenage me really absorbed a lot. I knew I wasn't into heroin at a young age, so that part didn't... Yeah. I wasn't part of those kids corrupted by this movie. But
didn't grab you.
As Bob Dole eloquently said.
And then he admitted he never actually saw the movie, which is
Never actually
what
saw the
most
movie.
politicians admit when asked about it, when a follow-up question comes about one of their problems with mass media.
In 1996, a man named Bob Dole, a senator, ran for president against Bill Clinton, and he campaigned on the moral failures of the liberal people and used Trainspotting as an example of making drugs look good.
Yeah.
And how we're terrible people. And he had never actually seen the movie.
Can you think of a film that had come out where something like drug use is glorified in an intentional way and how it's so cool and that kids should do it? Like, I can't think of a movie that actually is like that.
Well, I mean, on the face of it, there's movies, but if you actually paid attention to the moral of the movie...
That's what I mean. Like, if you're Bob
Requiem
Dole
for a
looking
Dream?
at it from the outside, no. They only look at it like showing or talking about those things corrupts youth. But the filmmakers and any artist would tell you, we're showing and talking about those things to tell people this is what can happen, and it's always negative. I don't know anything that's positive. It's like currently what's happening where they ban books.
That's really weird.
It's weird. Like it's like they're educators. They understand that it's not glorifying negative stereotypes or our past history. It makes people uncomfortable to see truths. We don't want to put that in front of our kids because it's uncomfortable for them. But it just looks bad, you know? It's really dumb.
I mean, did you see Moss?
I didn't see it. I read it.
Well, yeah, like...
Well, I guess I did see it. It was a graphic novel. Yeah, it was amazing. It was one of those books in the 90s. It was great.
It's one of the few comics I still have. Was there 2 editions? I feel like there's 2 editions.
I think there was a sequel to it as well.
Yeah, I have both, I believe. But anyway, like, it's insane to ban that.
Stephen King has a good quote where he says it never bothered him to hear when schools ban books because you're given the title, so go to your library that's non-school related and immediately pick up that book and read it because you're trying to see what they want to hide from you.
Yeah, I read that quote. Was that the one that started with, don't do any stupid bullshit, like standing outside and yelling and holding
I didn't really
signs.
care for that part. I paraphrased to make it sound better. I mean, I don't want, he sounds like a complainer for a little bit. Because you can certainly protest if you want to. I think that's fine. I just like the idea of what are they trying to hide from you? You should go find it out for yourself. Yeah, it's just the sensitivity. It's the sensitivity of people nowadays where they think that kids can't handle things or shouldn't be exposed to things. And I just don't think that's right because you try to be so progressive that you end up circling back around to being prejudice or a bigot. We don't want kids to read about this uncomfortable Nazi Holocaust thing where you circle around actually becoming a denier without even realizing it.
That's nicely put. I like that.
That's just what I think.
It's a perfect segue back to Trainspotting, the movie. No,
well,
it's
it's
not.
full of difficult subject matter, but I think the filmmaker, Danny Boyle, and the writer, Irving, is it Welsh or Walsh? I think
Writer of the book, Irving Welsh, and screenplay by John Hodge.
Yeah, I think they were trying to show a side of Scotland that even in the late 90s, they could probably see was changing because when you watch the sequel, everything's changed, as most things have. Like, it's just not the same Edinburgh that it was when Ewan McGregor's character Renton was growing up. But I think even in the late 90s, they probably witnessed a change, and it was just their way of documenting how hard life was at that point. I see it as them not glorifying it, but just, showing us a slice of life in a fun, joyful, fast-cut edit kind of way.
Yes, the fest. I was very curious after watching Trainspotting if we had seen Danny Boyle mature enough yet, and if Trainspotting 2 would look like something completely different because he was set in such a different place. Mm-hmm. But he did a pretty good job of keeping the styles similar. What did you think there? You're better at that.
Yeah, I think for sure. The thing about Danny Boyle to me is that he is Trainspotting. Like, that's his way of making movies. And I like that. What's his name? Who did Shaun of the Dead? What's his name? Edgar Wright. I think he's a similar. Maybe a little bit of Paul Thomas Anderson is kind of like that as well. But I think those guys are like 3 for example, are kind of originals in their craft of 90s filmmaking. So when anybody else tries to do this copycat editing, I feel like they're posers. But when Danny Boyle does it, I feel like that's the guy who does it right. And anytime he's made a Hollywood film, I always just feel like it's too much. Like Slumdog Millionaire, I just don't care for I don't care for him making those kind of movies because his style fits better with independent. So that's why Trainspotting to me is his ultimate movie. But admittedly, I haven't seen every one of his films, but I've seen quite a lot of them.
Let's run through this real quick because this is the style of director that we don't cover very often. So he starts in 94 with Shallow Grave. Have you ever seen it?
I haven't, no, but it's also written by John Hodge, stars Ewan McGregor. It's about some roommates who find a dead body and they steal the money from the dead person, and they have to like bury him or something. That's as far as I know about it.
Apparently, the heroin dealer in Trainspotting is also in Shallow Grave, and it's insinuated that they're the same guy, which is fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
And then he goes on to A Life Less Ordinary. Now, this is right in the middle of us discovering movies and going to see them a lot.
Did you see it?
I saw A Life Less Ordinary immediately.
I don't remember seeing it in the theaters, but I may have. But there's like the slight memory in my brain that maybe I did see it.
When I saw the movie poster and I saw how Ian McGregor was dressed, that's when it clicked.
So very 90s, him and Cameron Diaz. That is the ultimate 90s style movie, I think, as far as the clothing style goes, and maybe his hair.
Yeah, it very labeled the time. And then he broke with Ian McGregor for the first time and starred Leonardo DiCaprio in The Beach.
Apparently this started some kind of rift.
I didn't read up much on it, but yeah, something along those lines. Because I think originally it was supposed to be Ian, and then something happened.
I think it's Ewan, by the way.
Ian.
You say Ian, but it's Ewan.
All right, Obi-Wan. So him and Obi-Wan have a split. He makes The Beach with DiCaprio. It does fine. And then he goes and he makes 28 Days Later. Like, this guy makes possibly the most seminal zombie movie right at the beginning of zombie resurgence. Obviously, I don't mean all time, I mean modern zombie movies. How's that?
And also it was shot digitally, and he and like Robert Rodriguez were two of the very first adopters. You could probably throw George Lucas in there too. We can make cinema style films using video, and you'll be okay with it. And I like 28 Days Later because it still has kind of a video look to it sometimes, but it works. And the technology's only improved to the point where now, yeah, everything's digital practically, unless you're Christopher Nolan and stuck in the past doing film, which is fine. Yeah, so that stood out to me too, is that he was one of the early champions of digital, and it so worked with 28 Days Later, which is such a good film.
Yeah, and so we have like 4 just solid movies, and then we have Millions.
I remember our good friend Doug wouldn't shut up about Millions. I don't know why.
Really?
He just loved that movie. And I had never seen it. It was about some kid.
And then he does Sunshine, which I also have never seen.
Like a space film.
Yeah, sci-fi psychological thriller. Written by Alex Garland.
Who's Alex Garland?
Alex Garland directed. He wrote 28 Days Later, Sunshine, Never Let Me Go, Dread. And then he got into directing with Ex Machina.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then he made Annihilation.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know he was the same guy.
Yeah, he's good. I like him.
That's a pretty good filmography so far.
Yeah. So yeah, they make Sunshine. This guy can't just, even if he has a couple movies that are whatever, then he goes and makes Slumdog Millionaire and is at the height of the world again.
Certainly his most Hollywood film. Academy Award winner, just everything.
Didn't he win that movie win all the Academy Awards?
It won 8 out of 10, I believe.
God. Yes,
yep,
it
was
won
huge.
8.
It's just one of those movies, man.
And then after that, he did 127 Hours, which I've also never heard of.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's really... See, that one I liked because coming off of Slumdog Millionaire, which I liked, but I was just like, whatever.
Is that the thing where the guy cut...
True story. Really well done. It's a really good film, but yeah, it's a little difficult because his arm is crushed in a rock the whole movie, and then he has to cut it off with a penknife.
That I don't think I could ever write.
It's great.
Watch.
It's great. It's a great film, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, wow. But it's a credit to Danny Boyle's directing and editing, where he comes up with fascinating ways to show how this guy is stuck doing nothing for 127 hours, and And this, especially in the scene where he has to cut his arm off, like it's really well done. But I think you would feel the same way if you watched that movie, because nobody knew where he was. Nobody could find him. He was going to die. You're building up to the point where you're just like, wow, I would probably do the same fucking thing, or else pathetically die because you were too scared to do it. So what are you going to do? So it's a good film. I recommend it. You're going to watch it.
I'm never going to watch it. After that, he made a movie called Trance, which I've never heard of.
I've never seen that.
Starring, again, it looks good, a 2013 psychological thriller starring James McAvoy, Rosario Dawson, and then he goes and he makes Steve Jobs, the Aaron Sorkin one, which is the one that I haven't seen, and it's supposed to be good.
I don't know. I just don't. I don't care about Steve Jobs.
Yeah, that was.
It's just too soon for me. I don't know. Movie watchers are like, I wonder how Hollywood could tell this story. I wonder how they could dramatize this in 2 hours, and then somebody goes out and makes the movie. I just think it's bizarre, so it just doesn't interest me as much. Like, I need a lot of time to pass.
No, I know, and those movies, like, how many 9/11 movies are there? Because there was, like, one with Nick Cage, World Trade Center.
Yeah.
There's the one about on the plane that the guys took down. Like, there's a lot of 9/11 movies that I will never watch.
But a lot of that, I think, has to do with studios gobble up the rights, and it's a for sure moneymaker, and then they just get somebody involved. And I'm sure that's how the World Trade Center movie with Oliver Stone came about. We want to make this movie. It'll make money. What do you think, Oliver? We'll pay you this much. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll do it. We got Nick Cage. Okay, cool. And then they just make it. But for Danny Boyle to do Steve Jobs and for Aaron Sorkin to even write it, I feel like it's a real passion project for them, and that's what I just don't get. Like, really?
After that, in 2017, he makes Trainspotting 2, called T2. And they said that was an issue with search engine optimization. Like, T2 would just pull up Terminator, so they had to do T2 Trainspotting for people to be able to find it. And then his last movie was Yesterday, which I didn't even realize he did yesterday.
I don't watch it. Yesterday feels like Slumdog Millionaire to me, and that I just has no interest. I just think it's a cheesy plot, and I could care less.
That one I wanted to see. Cheesy, I can go for.
Yeah, I love the Beatles, but I'm just like, this is dumb.
You know how you love the Beatles? What if they weren't there?
I know, it's such a... I don't know, man. It could be a good film. I'm not saying it's not, but I just was like, really? All right.
So the biggest thing with Danny Boyle's filmography, so he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's made 13 films.
That's pretty good.
How many has he written? He wrote one. He wrote 127 hours.
Oh, you wrote that. Oh, okay,
so
cool.
You're so used to writer-directors showing us their vision. This is a guy who doesn't necessarily write the stories. He just has a vision for how the stories should look.
Yeah.
And I just always find it interesting when these guys with a strong directorial vision don't always write their own shit. It's because you know what a Danny Boyle movie looks like.
It seems like he encompasses every part of the movie that it almost doesn't even matter that he doesn't write it, because it becomes such his vision. I think like more than a lot of filmmakers. So it doesn't bother me that he doesn't write them. I mean, it never bothers me. I mean, because that's the movie business. It's a collaborative business. You have writers, you have directors. I think I gravitate more to films where people actually write and direct their own stuff, just because I am way more of an auteur, where I just think if you're even going to do a movie, why wouldn't you just want to be a part of every reason it's being made from the inception to the conclusion? That's just me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another guy that comes to mind is Tim Burton. Tim Burton doesn't write most of his stuff.
Yeah, right. And even him, but when he started, he made movies because they were generally his idea, and that's why he went after it. He would just get people that were better at writing than him to write them. But then it obviously moved away from there once he was out of ideas, obviously.
Once he had creatively dried up.
Exactly.
Also, which coincided, that's not verified. I don't know if this is the truth, but... it kind of coincided with him actually starting to kiss women. Like when he was able to start date and figured that out, he got a lot less dark. And
okay. When he became, when his creepy goth exterior became a thing that actually attracted women instead of repelled them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be right. Well, I mean, I always say like people end up making their worst movies because they have all the money in the world to make it. when you don't have any money to make a movie is generally when you do your best work, because you're more creative and you have to think things through. That's probably why I think Trainspotting is his best film.
In simpler terms, people always seem to make their best work when they're not happy.
That too, yeah.
When people start being fulfilled and happy, then it's like, oh, all down the toilet.
Yeah, and when nobody knows what you're doing, nobody cares what you're doing, nobody likes you, nobody's interested in you, that's when you tend to do your best work as well. But when everybody loves you and they want you and women love you, yeah, you probably don't have to try as hard. That's Tim Burton.
That's Tim Burton.
No offense. I love Tim Burton. Because you know what? Tim Burton still comes back around every once in a while and makes a cool movie. So I got no problems. If he wants to do some Disney crap every once in a while, like Dumbo, whatever. The kids liked it.
Yeah. The reason I thought it was interesting that he didn't write Trainspotting is it's another of many 90s movies, some of which we've talked about on this podcast, that have young characters that have absolutely no idea what they're doing with their lives, and or they're wasting their lives. And it just hit me when I was watching the first Trainspotting that, Jesus, we watched a lot of this shit in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, Clerks is the easiest example, and it's all about this generation that have no idea what the fuck is going on, and we're watching different segments of it react to that. What the hell was the 90s in terms of this gigantic shift in the way that people viewed growing up?
I'll take it back a little further, and we've talked about these movies too, the new Hollywood films of the late 60s, early 70s. This is when that started, because all these disenfranchised people that were born after World War II grew up and were asking those same questions. What are we doing with our lives? So like The Graduate, Five Easy Pieces, The Last Picture Show, those are the kind of movies they made in the 70s. And then all these 90s directors grew up on those movies. So I think they watched those movies like Tarantino, Kevin Smith, Danny Boyle. Those were some of their favorite movies growing up. And they were asking the same questions in this new generation of Gen X. And that's why we're getting New Hollywood 2.0, basically. I would maybe throw Pulp Fiction into there, but that's more about like gangster stuff.
Arguably the same topic, just the people themselves are older, like,
yeah, Reservoir Dogs kind of thing. They're older, they're professionals, but they're still asking those same questions, perhaps.
Roughly the same age group as the guys in Trainspotting 2. We'd be seeing them be more mature in doing that kind of depravity.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Maybe more Reservoir Dogs than Pulp Fiction, just because Pulp Fiction to me is like Sam Jackson's film. And he's definitely, I mean, he was almost like 50 probably at that point when he was making that movie. So he doesn't count as a kid. And neither does John Travolta or Bruce Willis. So I don't know how that fits in. But the style of filmmaking compares in my mind, I guess. But even El Mariachi, for instance, you know, like there's a young kid who doesn't know what he's doing with his life and is just trying to make a go being a musician or something, and he gets mixed up into shit. So I would even maybe throw that kind of movie in there. New Hollywood 2.0. That's what I'm thinking. And Danny Boyle was right in the middle of there.
19. Sorry, I got distracted by the underage chicken Trainspotting.
Yeah, Kelly Macdonald, for sure.
Yeah, because I couldn't. Not really. I was looking through her filmography, but no, wait. I don't want to shit on what you were saying. Had you finished your thought?
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry.
No, well, you were talking about disenfranchised youths kind of movies, and yeah, I agree with you. This is one of those movies.
So given that we've watched a lot of them, especially when we were teenagers, did they fuck us up?
They didn't fuck us up, but it certainly made me ask a lot of questions. And I think it more so music that I got into at the time, but also films led me to do what I do today. You know, I like to be creative, and I got jobs that I didn't have to have any schooling for. I just used my own talent and creativity. And that's how I've always been employed and got jobs and kind of just did things in my own way. And luckily I found places to be employed that let me do that. So I think that music and movies have really, that we saw in the 90s led me into who I am today. So I don't know if Trainspotting stood out in my mind as one of those movies at the time, but I see it now.
Well, let's run through this plot real quick. There's some young men in another country. They do a lot of drugs. They sell some drugs. And it kind of ends. The end.
That's Trainspotting for you.
Did I miss anything?
Well, we can get into it because I think Ewan McGregor, I was talking to my wife about him. I bet when he was in school, like high school, doing drama or whatever he was doing, or even college, I bet, because everybody wants to be an actor when they're a kid. Almost everybody does. But there's some people that just stand out. And I bet he was that guy where everybody was just like, fuck, Ewan McGregor, he is going to be huge someday. Like, they just knew it. Because when you watch Trainspotting, he was born to be an actor. Like, he carries that movie just in his crazy energy and just everything about him. It was just like, it was obvious that Ewan McGregor was just a powerhouse actor.
Yes, I agree. And we've talked about Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, on this podcast before.
Can you not say Ewan? I just kind of throw it off. Ewan. There you go.
We've talked about Obi-Wan on this podcast before, and how he doesn't have a lot of huge hits. He's got a zillion movies, and he's a workhorse, but his hits are far and few between, but everybody knows him.
Yeah.
And
probably because of Star Wars, I would say.
Well, yeah, but I mean, people know Ewan. People know
when you think about it, you mess it up, but you just got to let it fly off your tongue. Ewan.
People know Ewan McGregor.
There you go.
But this movie is fun because the casting is so spot on. Even though I hadn't remembered or watched this film in 20 years, you remember each and every character because they were so damn distinct. You remember Spud. You remember Jonny Lee Miller. God damn, he has aged well.
He's a good looking guy.
And you remember Robert Carlyle, even though you don't really remember anything that Robert Carlyle was in unless you look it up.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that my wife and daughter watch Once Upon a Time,
yes,
the ABC show.
Yep,
and I knew it immediately, right? When I saw him in Trainspotting, I remembered. I was like, that's him from the show. And she was like, no. And I'm just like, it is. Because he's such a different character that you're surprised at his quality of acting because all you see him on is this long-running ABC show. And it's just not fair that he wasn't. I mean, it's great. Hey, it's great to have a show that you can get a paycheck from for like 8 years or however long Once Upon a Time was on, and you show up to the same set. You do good work, but the quality of Robert Carlyle's performance in Trainspotting, I just feel like he should have been used way more than he was.
Looking at his filmography, he's got stuff here and there, but almost all of it is stuff I don't recognize, and it just makes. Well, no, but where is Once Upon a Time? So that was 2011 to 2018.
Again, he's probably done more United Kingdom films and British films and whatever,
Oh, that's a good point. He might have
European
stayed
movies, yeah.
In England. Yeah, Robert Carlyle as Begbie. Begbie? Are you going to correct every
get
English
it right
mispronunciation?
Yeah, Robert Carlyle. He's just an asshole. I mean, they're all friends. There's Ewan McGregor, who plays Renton, or Rent Boy. Jonny Lee Miller as Sick Boy. Who else? Spud. And there's a Tommy. And then Begbie. They're all just like dudes that are in Edinburgh, Scotland, and it's a shitty town, and there's no prospects in life, so they just steal to get money, to get drugs, and heroin is the huge thing, and they just get fucked up all the time. And it's really just slices of life with these guys going through their daily drug habits, trying to make a go of things, and the funny things that happen. But as uplifting and joyful the movie is when you watch it, even though they're doing horrible things, every once in a while they throw something out there that reminds you that this is not the way to be and this is horrible. Like they have a baby that lives in the drug house that they are so fucked up they don't take care of it and it dies. They don't. I mean, it looks like it was dead for days. They have no idea.
Yeah, Ballsy's showing the dead baby.
Yeah.
The drug house and their drug habit. It's fun because they make it very clear that they still live normal lives. That heroin is just part of those normal lives. They have girlfriends. Tommy is dating which one? Lizzie? Allison. Tommy and Allison are together.
I think so, yeah.
And then Spud is with Gail?
Yes, because he has a daughter, or he has a son with Gail in the sequel. So it is Gail.
God, do any of them work? No, they just hang out and...
The funny thing about Sick Boy, Jonny Miller's character, is that he's always putting on a suit like he's going somewhere to work, and then he just gets fucked up on heroin. So I think that was just a nice little touch. Danny Boyle says that he always thought of the film as an ensemble cast and that there was no lead character, But Ewan McGregor's given the role of narrator as well as being Renton, and I think his story is most interesting to watch, and he's the narrator, so this is definitely Renton's movie. This is definitely Ewan McGregor's movie, no matter what Danny Boyle would want you to believe.
We're the most invested in him.
Yeah, for sure. So basically what happens, I mean, you said it, they do heroin. I said crazy things happen. I mean, is there anything that really ties this thing together?
I mean, the beginning portion of this movie is really getting to know them and their dynamics. And there's little setups. We have Ian McGregor visiting Tommy and notices one of Tommy's porn tapes and switches it and steals it, basically, so he can watch some porn.
That was another 90s touch for me, is all of the VHS cases in a line on the ground. The amount of VHSs and stuff sitting on the ground was very accurate.
People really did display, like, and I guess you still do to an extent, but yeah, movie collections were something to be wowed by.
Anyway, yeah, so he's like borrowing a tape, so he borrows a football one, but it actually has a sex tape in there. But yeah, it might be that move is what kind of spirals the movie out of control. Because the girlfriend is horrified that the sex tape is missing. So then their relationship fails, and then Tommy goes to Renton wanting to do heroin, which he had never done before. And Renton gives him heroin.
Yeah.
And then Tommy's life spirals out of control. He ends up getting HIV from sharing needles. He ends up dying. The baby dies. Things are messed up.
That's really Tommy's story. I don't know if there's anything really super interesting about him. Franco, Robert Carlyle,
Begbie.
He likes hurting people. That's his thing.
Big time.
And so he spends most of this movie fighting people. Everybody's scared of him. Everybody hates him, but they kind of just deal with him because he's an old friend. What are you going to do? He's just fucked up.
He's like Marty McFly when he gets called a chicken, the sequels at least. And he's like, what did you call me? If like Marty McFly took out a knife and just like shivved everybody. That's Begbie. Like, he cannot stand to be thought of as a pussy or anything like that. Or he's always constantly shown his masculinity in such a violent way. So he's always just fucking people up and you know, shattering glasses and just he's just a horrible person. That's pretty much what it is.
First half of the movie sets these characters up. The second half of the movie is a drug deal.
Spud and Renton get busted for shoplifting. And then the Tommy dying from HIV kind of coincides with Renton getting cleaned up. But his version of cleaned up is going to, like, Spud gets 6 months in prison. Renton just has to go to rehab. But he can't make it work. Like, this whole rehab thing, he's still getting methadone. He's still getting effed up. But at some point, he leaves for London, and he gets a job as a real estate selling stuff. So that's like the switch in the movie, is that he actually does get cleaned up, and he goes and tries to get a job.
And then his friends come and pull him back in.
Yeah, I mean, they live this life of transience. I need a place to stay. I need a place to stay. Well, they found out where Renton was, so Begbie goes and is like, hey, I'm on the run, so he needs a place to stay. And then Sick Boy ends up coming along too. So then they start fucking up Renton's life again.
They have a line on a big score of heroin that a Russian sailor has.
Yeah.
But of course they don't have any money, but Renton is cleaned up, so he's got some money stashed.
A little bit of savings.
That one little piece bothered me. So he's got $2,000 stashed for the return of $4,000 for a drug deal. It just doesn't seem like that good of a deal. He doesn't felt pressured because of his friends, I'm guessing.
They also inadvertently make him lose his job. So he has no prospects again. I think he felt loyalty, and if we do this score, it'll lead me to do other things more successful. I don't know. Maybe that's how drug addicts feel. Like, if we just do this one score, criminals feel, if we do this one score, we'll do a better one after that. So maybe he was just like, there's no point for me trying to get out of this life. Clearly, I'm stuck in it. Let's just do this. So, because they can get 16 grand. They end up getting 16 grand from the drug deal. And then they're going to split it 4 ways between Renton, Sick Boy, Begbie, and Spud.
And it kind of works. The thing that I liked about that drug deal, you have suspense, like, is this going to work? Are they just going to fuck it up again? And it works. It works because the guy that they're selling the drugs to doesn't even respect them. They're doing something that they feel like is big time, but to everybody else in the room, they're just as much of a loser as they think they are.
That is a running theme throughout both movies, is how much of a loser they are. They're basically posers that try to look cool. So another reason why I really don't think the movie should be glamorized. It's clearly telling you that this is not the way to be, but you can have a little fun with it, but it all ends up shitty anyways, so don't be this way. And then is at this point where Renton is like, it's not worth it. Like, I want to try my own thing. I do want to maybe do something real with my life. So he ends up stealing. Is that what you took from it? That's how I took it. So he just takes the money from everybody while they're sleeping and runs off with the 16 grand.
I don't know if the movie had a marked moment where you're supposed to realize that there was a change in him, or if he was always the different, cleaned up Renton, and he didn't want anything to do with it. He'd been dragged back in. He was doing it from loyalty with friends, and he realized that, like, even loyalty to friends is bullshit.
Well, because he can't stand Begbie.
Yeah.
He thinks that Sick Boy would have done the same thing if he was awake. He's probably right. The only one he felt bad about doing this to was Spud. So he ends up leaving for the grand for Spud. I guess in his mind, he made the right choice. And then he heads off with the 16 grand. And that's pretty much it. Or 14 grand after he gave 4 to...
So the movie ends...
12 grand after he gives 4 to Spud.
Yes. Good job with your math, buddy.
I don't want to sound like an idiot.
I'm so proud of you. That's going to be one of our first pieces of merch someday. It's just a t-shirt that has 16 plus 4 equals 12. And yeah, so this movie that we were all watching ends with the lead character screwing over everyone, deciding that the only important thing is himself, and leaves his family, leaves his friends, and that's it.
I think it was easier in 96 to disappear. It'd be hard to do that nowadays. Somebody could always find you.
The IRS has a new website. They're working with a third-party contractor called ID.me, and it's a secure login for government websites. And you literally have to submit your photo, your license, and then have them scan your face ID technology. So my face imprint and my photo are in a government database now, so that when they have the cameras on the streets and they do that scan, they're going to be able to quickly scan, and it's creepy.
Yeah, it's science fact now. It's not science fiction.
Never say that again. Never.
Never.
Science fact is not a thing we're making real. Tweet at Aaron.
Yeah. Some of the things that stand out to me of why Trainspotting is such a good film is that the creativity Boyle has with the editing and the shots and stuff, like when Renton's high on heroin and he overdoses, and how he sinks into the floor, and then anytime they take his POV, it's always the carpet on the sides, like he's still in the floor. You know, things like that were just really clever. That really pushes the movie along when he has to dig in the disgusting toilet to get his suppositories out. Super gross, but it's so over the top dirty that it didn't bother me.
Right.
Time when Spud has his shit flown across the room, really pointless. I thought that was dumb. I thought it was enough for him to wake up knowing that he shat the bed, and then we could have left it there. But it just was like stupid, gross out comedy. I didn't really care for what happened after that.
It was pretty gross.
And I love the constant talk of Iggy Pop, because Iggy Pop was one of my favorites. And this movie did so much for Iggy Pop's career in the 90s, because he was really flailing in the 90s. But Lust for Life kicks off the movie, and it's such a great drum sound, and it works perfectly well with the movie, that it really revitalized his career. And that was cool. I love Iggy Pop.
Iggy Pop is cool. Yeah.
Kelly Macdonald is Diane. She plays a 15-year-old, even though she's 19. What happens there is that Renton ends up sleeping with this girl, because once he got off heroin, his libido, as he puts it, came roaring back, and he just wanted to get laid so bad. And then it's a funny scene, because he has sex with this girl, but then he wakes up and realizes he's in her house, and she's just like a 15-year-old school kid.
Which we've had to have had that trope before. Yeah, because it was good. It was effective.
Yeah. And now she was 19 when she shot it, but at the same time wouldn't fly today, but I think it's a good scene.
And Ian McGregor has a great penis.
Sure. And she was cute. She's really,
she was hot.
She was really good looking. Naked.
And she was 19, so it's okay to say that she was hot.
Yeah, sure. She's from Boardwalk Empire, is where I knew her best.
Yeah, I never watched it.
Yeah, it was really good. And her and Charlie Cox have a relationship in that show, future Daredevil. And she's the voice of Merida from the Brave movie, which my daughter really loves. The Pixar film, you know?
Yes.
The girl with all the, and various other things.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, my issue with Trainspotting.
Yes, your issue.
My issue with it is that it's a very good film, but they just create story elements out of nowhere. There's these drug addict criminals, and every day they come up with a new reason to get more drugs. So all of a sudden, we're just going to create this thing where these Russian sailors have all this coke or heroin, and then we're going to do it. So it just came out of nowhere, where they're just like, oh, this is what's going to happen. So then the last like fourth of the movie becomes all of a sudden a score film where they just have to do this score. It's like to me it's like a 90% great film, and then it just ends kind of like your average score movie.
I haven't read either of the books, so I can't comment.
What I understand about the book is that it's full of like a dozen or more characters, where there's so many characters in this world that Irving Welsh grew up in that he gives everybody their own story. And when John Hodge was writing a script from this book, he took what he thought was like the four most interesting characters and made a story around them. So I guess the book is way fleshed out with more of Edinburgh and their population, and this is just what John Hodge found the most cinematic.
So, The Matrix.
Yes.
It feels like we have a whole bunch of movies like Trainspotting and Clerks and even The Matrix all yelling into the void, what the hell is the meaning of this life? What are we trapped in? And it always feels like we get a sequel that is these characters 20 years later all saying there was no secret and it was all bullshit and this is life and we have to come to terms with the fact that life isn't that exciting and we should settle for what we have. Or in the Matrix's case, we have people that have the argument here, it always feels like, is what is this American dream? What is this thing and how am I going to best use it? And the sequel is the American dream is bullshit. We just have to do our thing. And the fun thing about, this is a new thought right now, right here. The Matrix is fun because it's almost like the Matrix is the American dream and it traps you and you always sit there and wonder, what the fuck is this? And it's not until you break free from that illusion where you're able to come to terms with what life is. So in Matrix Resurrections, once again, re-trapped by the American dream. And once again, they're breaking free and they're older and they're wiser. And they realize that the only thing that really fucking matters at all is me and you. So it's a theme that repeats, and we see it repeat again here, where we once again see the same cast of characters really past the point of wondering where the American dream was and them kind of just coming to terms with the fact that this is their lives.
But unlike the Matrix Resurrections, to me, this one, Trainspotting 2, did it in a way that they did a different kind of movie and they made it exciting with its own story. They didn't just regurgitate everything from the first one.
All of these sequels is that thing that we get, though. And it's kind of a statement on its own that the sequel is a lot like the original because nothing really changes, not in our lives and not in their lives.
Yeah, I see your take on it. I'm just saying that T2 Trainspotting is a different kind of movie because the first one was about whatever they just came up with to score heroin. And this one is more, to my viewing, Begbie's movie, and it's a revenge tale. It doesn't start out as a revenge tale, but it follows that trajectory and then ultimately becomes a revenge tale and is a little more action oriented at the end. So that to me was a little different. That's how it proved itself worthy of existing differently from Trainspotting. Even though, of course, yeah, it's a sequel to that movie, so it shares a lot of the same elements, but it becomes something different.
Yeah, they made it 20 years later on a budget that was next to nothing. And he says he did that on purpose to keep it true to the original. Budget of 18 million, box office of 42. So at the very least, they broke even. All the actors got paid the exact same amount.
That's
with
cool.
The promise of back end if the movie was a success. And it came out and it did well and it was regarded well. And that is it. There were some camps that said This movie was a terrible failure, and some camps that said this was one of his best movies. So Trainspotting 2 takes place 20 years later, and it's Ewan McGregor.
Just the worst.
Coming back to town. Literally has not been back since he stole all of their money. So he knows by coming back to town that he's potentially in for some trouble. The first thing he does is he visits the family house. His mom has died. Dad's still there.
I feel like that's the reason he came back, is because mom died.
No, he was homeless.
Yeah, but he could have went anywhere. And I don't think he would have went home if not for the fact, because they set it up that way. Like, he comes home and they immediately start talking about his mom. She did this and she did that, and she left the room just like he wanted it and stuff like that. So anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. I just felt like that was the reason he was finally like, all right, I got to go home.
I don't know. And I don't know if they necessarily really say. So we start the movie with him having his long Ewan McGregor hair on a treadmill, and he has a heart attack. Falls straight off backwards. It was awesome. Pretty good scene. You don't know I assumed that he was really high on that, and then he collapsed because he was really high.
No way people do drugs and then jump on a treadmill. It just doesn't happen.
Maybe drug addicts do. I don't know.
I guess. Not his kind of drug addict, though. If he was still on heroin, I don't think he'd be doing a treadmill. Starting off in a gym immediately told me that, like, well, Renton's cleaned up, and he's a health nut now, and he really has got his life together. Or they want you to believe that.
Next thing we know, he's coming back to town, visits his dad, his mom's dad. They did a really cool thing with mimicking scenes, because another way that this movie ties together with The Matrix is they do a really good job of layering in the old movie into the movie. Like where we see those little flashback scenes. It reminded me a lot of the way they used it in The Matrix.
When he's sitting at the kitchen table with his dad, you can still see the mom's shadow on the wall.
Yes! It was awesome.
That was messed up.
And then he immediately goes to see sick Spud.
One of the other things is when he's coming into town, Edinburgh has been gentrified. Like a lot of places in this new millennium, especially around 2020, everything's cleaned up. It hasn't hit every portion of every place in their area, but for the most part, I mean, he's on this nice commuter train and he's driving through all this. You can see like H&M and Starbucks and all these stores just everywhere. Like it's clear to him that like this is not the city he left. Like it's definitely not the shithole it was.
Sick boy, he has purchased the bar that they hung out at.
He said it was his aunt's.
Really?
Yeah, he said he took over his aunt's bar now.
Wasn't it the one from the original?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Oh.
But he said the great gentrification wave has not reached him yet because he's still kind of in a shitty part of Edinburgh.
Well, no, isn't every building torn down around the bar except for the bar?
Yeah, but nothing's been put in its place. It's
right.
Just for some reason been torn down. So it all just fell apart.
Definitely doesn't have a lot of business.
But I think that also helps for what they try to do later in this business they're trying to create, is that nobody seems to be paying attention to what he is doing out there. So that's why they feel like he got away with it, because they're still in the shitty part that nobody wants to touch, I guess. So yeah, he meets Sick Boy back in the bar. But we do learn more about Sick Boy before they meet up, in that he's still apparently a drug addict. He does coke a lot, but he is doing these extortion things with his Bulgarian girlfriend, who's a prostitute or a high-priced escort, where they record her having sex with businessmen and people with families and high-paying jobs, and without their knowledge, obviously. And then he uses that recording to blackmail them into getting money. So he's 20 years later still living a shitty life where he's a criminal.
He always seemed like the character that wanted to be the gangster. And what are you when you're like a teenage kid and you want to be a gangster? Like, you're just doing stupid shit. But he never really graduated to anything. This is like AA ball, and he started at AAA 20 years ago. No, he started at single A 20 years ago. Maybe he was practice league and then he moved to single A. Yeah, something.
Gotcha.
But he's pretty low tier. Renton's back. He goes to visit Spud, who is still a drug addict.
Well, he apparently cleaned up. And he was with his then wife, Gail, and they had a son named Fergus. But because, this is the stupidest thing, because he didn't understand, daylight saving time, he was an hour late for everything. And it fucked his life up. He lost his job, so he collapsed back into doing heroin because he had no prospects. And then the wife wants to divorce him. His son, he lost custody of his son. Whatever.
I forgot about that, and I can't believe I did because it was so funny.
So he decides to commit suicide because he's just like, he's a fuck up, and he thinks that, as apparently a lot of suicidal people feel, is that his family would be better off without him. So I thought this was one of the best scenes, though. Wouldn't you know it, Renton comes to visit Spud right at the moment when Spud's trying to kill himself. So he, in essence, saves his life. But then he has that great line where, like, Spud's angry at him for saving his life. He's like, you fucked up my life, and now you're fucking up my death.
And the one person that wasn't supposed to be mad at him was totally mad at him. Even though he left Spud his cut, what did Spud do? He blew it on nothing but heroin.
Isn't this just who these people are, though? They just seem to blame the world for all their... I hate people like that. I shouldn't say hate, but I can't stand people like where they just constantly blame the world for all their problems. If this thing hadn't done that to me, I would be here. But maybe that's the difference in Renton, is that he's actually not that person anymore. Like, that's what he's learned in these 20 years. And that's why he felt comfortable coming back. But also because Begbie is apparently in prison at this point.
Yes.
So I don't think he's actively thinking that anyone's going to kill him if he comes back, because Begbie is the only person that probably would kill him. Sick Boy would definitely beat the shit out of him, which is what happens.
Yeah, Begbie's in prison. We see him in prison. He gets his cellmate to shiv him so that he has to go to the hospital, at which point he is able to escape. So he is literally, throughout the movie, on the run from the law as a prison escapee.
I think this is really Robert Carlyle's film. I think I said this earlier, but I just feel like it is. Like, he is really given, like, the best character in here. Everybody else is just playing a future version of themselves. He is able to come back and just be the exact same person, just be a total POS. Just horrible. And it's fascinating to watch.
That is interesting. All these guys haven't seen Renton since 20 years ago. He's been somewhere else, life stories and character growth. Begbie has also not been seen by them since that day 20 years ago, but he's been on pause. He doesn't have life experiences. He's been waiting for his life to start again. And so, yeah, he's the exact same. That's a nice observation.
And I'm fascinated by, he's given a second chance. Well, he's not given. He steals a second chance at life because he escapes. And what does he do? He has no even desire to change. Like, he just wanted to get exactly back to what he was doing. So he starts stealing again. And yeah.
He is the most uncomfortable character. Everything about him and that actor is amazing, just because we know people like that. Everybody knows somebody like that you're friendly to them because it's less work than having to deal with the fallout of telling them what you really think.
Totally.
And so you always have to tiptoe around their feelings and try not to piss them off. It's so real. You feel for the other characters knowing that burden is around. When we get to the end of the movie and the conclusion of that, even then, they could have done whatever they wanted with him, and we would have felt okay with it.
Yeah, probably. So he gets out, and yeah, he goes home to his wife, who hasn't seen him in God knows how long, although she may have visited him in prison. But his son's all grown up, and he wasn't really prepared for that. Like, he didn't put that in his mind, because he's so focused on, like, I just need to start thieving again. Because revenge isn't even in his mind. Like, it doesn't come up to that he's even thinking about Renton. He seems probably pissed about being put away, basically, for around that time. But he doesn't actively try to find him or anything. But he gets his son to, like, forces him to start helping him break into people's houses and stuff, and it's so shitty that the son just goes along with it.
The son who's about to go to college.
Yeah, exactly. Who has prospects. But the dad is just like, fuck that.
He's going for hotel management, which dad thinks is stupid.
Oh, it's totally stupid, but it's a legitimate way to live your life in this society, so I think that's fine. It's so lame, but whatever. So he pulls the kid in just to show what a bigger asshole Begbie is. He doesn't even care that his son has prospects in life. He just wants him to pull him into the family business of thieving.
They go to a house, petty theft, steal just some trinkets and shit, and they go to a fence to sell it. The thing that kept going into my brain, and I don't know if it hit yours, was he's carrying this 4K TV into the fence like it's supposed to be a great score, but then we see that the fence has like or pallets of TVs in his place. Like, this guy is so small time that the fence shouldn't even be dealing with him. But I feel like it's just because it's him and people just are nice to him so they don't have to deal with him.
Even the mobster boss or whoever that guy was is just trying to appease Begbie too, almost.
Yeah.
But it's like he was almost a man out of time. And because, like you said, he was paused for 20 years, where they're like, yeah, they seem to be humoring him.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, but he's one of the best. Your old man, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, yeah, we'll take your little shitty TV. Obviously, I don't need it, but fine if it makes you feel better.
We finally get Renton meeting up with Sick Boy because he just strolls into his bar, which is ballsy. We get the confrontation that we expect. Sick Boy kicking the shit out of him.
It was a good fight, too.
Yeah. He wakes up from being passed out on the pool table. And at this point, Ewan is planning on just going home the next day. He just came to visit, but that's bullshit. Because he was never going to go home because he didn't have a home.
He was going to go home to move his stuff out of his... Well, he makes it sound like... It makes you believe that he's working out, he's cleaned up. He tells Sick Boy he's married, he has kids, like life is going well for him. And he came to pay Sick Boy the $4,000 that he stole.
Yes.
Which he probably could have mentioned he had the money before he kicked his ass, but he probably would have kicked his ass anyways. Because he thought that was pretty petty, like no interest either. You just come back for $4,000. Like, what good's that going to do me 20 years later? I think Sick Boy makes him feel guilty enough, because all he was going to do was go back to London and clean out his apartment because apparently he's getting divorced. He doesn't really have any kids. His life isn't that great. Although it's better because he's not an addict, but it doesn't seem to be that great either. So I think we're back to the Renton we used to know in that he doesn't really have many prospects. Oh, yeah, you said his job, like they're going to merge, so he's seeing the writing on the wall that he's not going to have a job there anyway.
Waiting to be laid off,
yeah. And then the nostalgia hits him, and I think he wants to make up for betraying them. So all those things put together, he ends up not leaving and staying and helping Sick Boy with his new venture, which is they're trying to turn his bar into a brothel, or sauna as they call it, where Veronica would be the madam and they would have high-class customers and prostitutes and stuff like that. And he would be a pimp, basically.
Yeah, it's his dream.
But they go about it in a legitimate way. They're trying to get a business loan, which is pretty funny.
Right, and that's that fun piece of being a grown-up where you gain knowledge, and that's where Ewan is like, have you considered applying for a small business loan? And they actually do it because he's an accountant. He has skills.
He can talk the talk.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the funniest scenes is they were trying to get money. And so they go to this meeting of, I never heard about this, but it seems legit, that there's all these sympathizers. There was a war in 1690, and it was the Catholics versus the Protestants, and the Protestants, they lost, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know shit about Scottish history. Like, that made me second guess myself. Is this movie in Ireland? Like, that conversation made sense. I didn't know it.
Yeah, it was definitely Scotland. It was something like they lost, and there's just the ancestors of all the people that fought in that 1690 war, kind of like Civil War. Southerners who still like are all about Confederates. We deserved to win and stuff like that. You know, there's like sympathizers with that way of life. So these people are called like the 1690s because that was the year. So they like infiltrate this meeting of them, and there's just a bunch of people like at a VFW who just get together and drink and sing songs, and then they sing this song. It's super funny. It was really well done. But they just go there because everybody's so drunk and dancing that they just steal all their credit cards and their debit cards and stuff. And it was so brilliant because they just knew that 9 out of 10 of those debit cards, their PIN would be 1690. I thought that was so fucking clever. And they were right. So they steal all those cards, they go to an ATM, and they get all this free money because they knew the PIN code.
And just a really smart detail there of pulling it 10 minutes before midnight, so that the withdrawal limit ends at midnight and they could just pull them again in a few minutes. It was really smart.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something Sick Boy gets busted, right?
That was right around then. Yeah.
Yeah. So then this is the only part of the movie I felt was a real fan service, is that they brought Diane back, Kelly Macdonald's character, because she's now a lawyer and he needed a lawyer. So Renton got her. So she just has a small little cameo. It was fine, but it just was like, out of everybody you could have called, I just thought that was fan service, I guess.
It was, and I liked it. Yeah.
So I guess they piss away all that money on legal fees and his drug habit. So all that money they got from the 60-90 guys was wasted again. So then I think that's why they go for the business loan.
No, they are in the dumps, and they're like, oh, this sucks. They get back, and they're like, you got approved for the business loan.
Right.
They had applied for it way earlier, forgotten about it.
Yes, you're right.
And then they got it. Yeah.
Oh, and they bring in Spud because he was a construction worker. So they have him help to build the brothel. So that's how he's involved. I think that's about all the setup you need, isn't it? Because that's how you get those three guys back together.
And the thing I really like, Spud's redemption story in here is probably my favorite part of the movie. We've said it before, we'll say it again. The whole concept of a movie is the main character is supposed to be different by the time the movie ends. If he's not different, then what was the point? And sometimes that's the point, and that's cool. But so seeing Spud go from death to new life by the end of this movie was awesome. I think it's more Spud's movie than anybody else's.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But yes, they bring in Spud, and he handles the construction of the second floor, and it starts looking awesome. And we see them slowly building, and somebody makes Spud start to write. I think it's Sick Boy's girlfriend.
Veronica.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's always telling story, because they're kind of working together. Like, she's the interior designer almost for his construction work. So they just start talking, and she likes his stories. She tells him to write his stories down, and he thinks that's actually a good idea. Because Renton, when he was trying to help him, after he saved him from suicide, he's like, getting clean isn't how you don't do heroin anymore. You have to be addicted to something else. Like, you'll always be an addict. Just make it something else. So he's trying to, like, you can exercise or box. So he tries out the boxing thing. Does not work. But I think when Veronica tells him you should write, that's what sticks. And that's what he ends up becoming an addict for, is writing. So, but that's an important part because that leads into Begbie.
So Sick Boy, early on, when he's still pissed that Renton's back, meets up with Big Bay and lets him know that he's back. But he doesn't. He lets him know that he was seen in Holland, where he was living, or wherever, Amsterdam. And soon they're going to get together and they're going to find him and fuck him up. But he tells him to stay away until then because the heat's on.
He needed to tell him something because he knew that Renton could show up anytime. He needed to let him know that Renton, he had seen him, but he wasn't here. And that would keep Begbie away. But at the same time, I like the fact that Sick Boy didn't tell Renton that Begbie knows of his existence still, because he's still not quite sure if he wants to fuck over Renton or not at the very end. After Sick Boy gets what he wants, he might still fuck him over. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't ever come to fruition, which seemed like an empty plot thread to me, because he was very clearly telling Veronica that I'm going to become friends with him again, only to betray him. But he doesn't really do that.
No, and you see them get past that, and I think he identifies that I could have fucked you over at any time, and I didn't. We also have them separately, immediately plotting with Veronica to take all of the money for themselves. No matter how much they've changed, they're still themselves, and they're immediately plotting to run away with Veronica, take the money, and do whatever.
Well, they're both in love with her in their own way.
Yes.
So, friends, betrayal. First there's an opportunity, then there's a betrayal, as Spud says.
This movie goes meta a couple of times, reminding me of another sequel that will go unnamed. I swear to God, there's a scene where Ewan talks about...
Just say Renton.
Doing a sequel. He calls out the fact that they're doing this all over again. And then there was another part, them talking about story structure was also very kind of meta, because they broke down the story structure of the first one, or of the first Trainspotting, that it's risk, reward, betrayal, or whatever. And they were following that story structure here. And they were to the reward part. Now we're going to get to, was it conflict and then betrayal? Something like that. And so they were marking it for us in a very meta way. Okay, we got a reward. Now there's going to be a conflict. And that's where we get Begbie.
I see. Yeah.
Begbie just happens to go to a nightclub. Oh, we forgot about the Viagra.
Well, there's a running theme in that he's home, but he is seeming to have issues having sex with his wife. So he's hanging out at that place where he sold the TV to, and there's all kinds of Viagra pills in a fridge. And it didn't seem to come necessarily out of nowhere. It seemed legitimate that this place trafficked in everything, and appliances and like stolen goods, also pharmaceuticals. So he just happens to find the fridge with all these blue pills in it, and they're Viagra. So, but he left his wife because the son was telling his dad, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm not you. I have prospects. So Begbie was like, fuck all you. And he leaves. So now that he's got Viagra, he wants to get out on the town and go get laid. So that's why he just happens to go to the same nightclub that Sick Boy and Renton are at.
Right.
I mean, it's a funny scene when they both realize they're sitting next to each other in the bathroom stalls, Renton and Begbie. It's obviously a huge coincidence. It comes out of nowhere, but they both realize by the voices that, oh, fuck. So then Begbie realizes that Sick Boy lied to him, that Renton is back in town, so it becomes a good chase. There's a confrontation in a parking garage, but Renton makes it out with just getting his arm cut. It's pretty fucked up. But, I mean, it's staged really well. I feel like Danny Boyle really knows how to shoot some action. He was going to do the James Bond movie after this. He was going to do the No Time to Die film. He was up for that, and he dropped out of it for whatever reason. I feel like he could have been a good choice for it.
Yeah, he could have.
And I think maybe this movie kind of showed his skill in directing action. Obviously, he's done other action type movies like 28 Days Later and stuff. Anyway, so it all comes to a head, right? Because Begbie is now actively looking for revenge against Renton.
Yes.
And he goes to Spud.
Yep.
And this is the part where I think is a nice... Well, before he goes to Spud, he goes to his family one last time and kind of has an emotional moment where he basically admits that he's a man out of time. This is not how it was for him growing up, where his son has prospects, and that's not something he had, so he wishes his son good luck. And I thought that was like, wow, like, this guy's such a piece of shit, but it was kind of a nice, touching moment. And then he goes to find Spud to intimidate him into finding where Renton is, and that's when he realizes that Spud has been writing down all the stories. But he loves hearing about himself. And I thought that was a great scene, like, where he's such a good actor in that scene where he makes Spud read stories of his past.
For me, it's the tension with the way that he uses the character and the way they treat him. You're sitting there worried about Spud in that scene, and when you see that turn where his ego has kicked in and he's happy that Spud's been writing the stuff down, like, you feel that relief. But you're still a little scared that he's going to cut him for no real reason.
Yeah, he's going to kill him anyways, is what I was feeling the whole time. But he does let him go. Veronica shows up because she read his stories as well. I don't know exactly why she went there. Maybe she was just wanted to tell him she liked his stories. I don't remember. But that's how Begbie gets her phone and then texts both Renton and Sick Boy to say, meet me at the bar. They think it's coming from Veronica, who they're both in love with.
Yes.
But it's actually Begbie setting it up and quite convincingly gets everybody together in one room for the very end of the movie.
Yes, a great end scene. Spud had left Veronica his finished book, and that's why she came to see him, because she read the book and she loved it so much. So yeah, we're at the end game. We're at the old bar. Jonny Lee Miller and Ewan McGregor are both there, and they're like, what the fuck? And they both realize that she's not coming.
And why is she not coming? Because she pulled a Trainspotting and betrayed them and stole all the money, because another thing that came out of nowhere is that Spud was good at
forgery.
Yeah. So she had him forge their signatures on the business loan. So then she got the 100,000 and took off back to her homeland of Bulgaria.
Her and Spud were in it together. He got 50%. So we have Spud turning the tables and doing what happened in the first movie.
But he doesn't want the money because he'll just piss it away. So he wants her to send it to his family.
Yes.
So yeah, everybody betrays each other. But now we have the four of them, because Spud goes to the bar as well to try to warn them. But it's too late. Begbie's already there.
They all fight. There's some great scenes in this fight. Like, this is a good movie. I don't know if we've said it, but both of these movies are good movies. You should watch them.
Yeah, both these movies are good.
Danny Boyle is a great filmmaker, and I don't think I've given him a lot of credit before today. Everything is so damn visceral in these movies where you're in there. There's a part where Begbie throws Ewan McGregor through a floor. The way his back kind of lands on one of the rafters in that scene, like, I felt pain.
Yeah,
like I was squirming during this fight. It was so real.
Well, he falls on that rafter, and then he gets tangled up and he's getting hung, and Begbie's just going to let him basically hang himself. But Sick Boy comes up, they all get into it, and then Spud, who's kind of a wimp the whole movie, he finally takes a toilet because, it's under construction, and nails Begbie with it and knocks him out. They tie him up and they throw him in the trunk of their car. So that's pretty much how that all wraps up.
Spud having his spine for the first time ever, standing up for himself, taking down the biggest bully in the whole world. Spud's movie.
And then what do they do? I mean, Begbie's been a fugitive this whole time, so all they had to do was drive the car to the police station, and that's how he's in the trunk as the police are coming out to see, like, what the fuck's this about. So that's, they took care of him, so he'll just be back in prison.
Yeah,
so
they just took him back to jail or prison.
Yeah, they didn't have to kill him or anything. They're not murderers.
But they could have. Like, they could have killed him real good. But we have this moment before the fight really starts. Ian is hiding in a mirrored room. Bigby is coming there, and Ian starts telling him a story. Oh, shit. What was he talking about?
I don't know. This time I did not ruin your train of thought. You did to yourself.
So this movie's good. It's just,
Yeah. Okay, well, see you later. I appreciated that they did things differently with this movie. They did the same movie, they gave it a proper sequel because it's the same kind of film, it's the same characters, but they kind of changed the genre almost and a little bit near the end. And I thought that was nice. It was a nice action film as opposed to just a score movie.
Danny Boyle, he's like 60 something, and he does a great job of capturing that middle-aged, where do we go with our lives now? How we're talking, like, you have the teenage angst movie, and then you have the middle-aged angst movie. Is there a genre of elderly angst movies? Like, because I don't think there's ever a point where we're ever not angsty, other than maybe...
I think, like, one that always comes to my mind is As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson, the James L. Brooks film.
Yeah.
Like, that is an old person angst movie, the way he is.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But it just makes me wonder if, after we get out of middle-aged, you either open up and you're free and you've accepted the world as it is, or... Yeah, like right now movies are telling us that old people have given up and there's nothing to their lives. There's no angst or anything.
Well, where do they go from here? They're in the exact same... They don't make it any further. They don't have the money. The only thing they're going to do is come up with another way to get in trouble, basically. That's all they can do.
Yeah, because this movie ends with Veronica back in her home country, reunited with what appears to be her child, and she's the winner. And once again, everybody is... the loser, because what is the moral of this story?
Once a loser, always a loser.
Once a loser, always a loser.
Oh, another thing is that the whole brothel thing fell apart because there's an actual gangster called Doyle, who runs all these things in and around Scotland, and it's just like, what were you gonna do? Are you gonna take my clients? No, this is never gonna happen. So he intimidates them and drives them out to the woods and makes them strip down so they're naked, and he makes them have to go home naked just to prove his point, like, you're not starting this. So the whole thing just falls apart on him.
Yeah.
And he's very clearly telling them, and you're losers, right? You know you are, right? And Johnny the Miller's like, yeah, we're losers. We are. So they never get ahead. They're always losers. So the only thing they can do is, I guess, in T3, they're going to just come up with a new scam to try to shit away their lives. And maybe be successful someday.
With Clerks 3, at the very least, in theory, he's a successful small business owner. Like, there's no setup here for T3 that has them coming out better.
I see this as like an important addition to Trainspotting, and that it gave us the what happened now with Renton, because what happens now that he stole all that money, and how does everybody react to that? So this answered that question, but there's no question now left at the end of this movie. So there's no reason for a sequel after this. I think it was fine to see these guys 20 years later, but there's no reason to see them again.
No, I don't think so. It sounded like they were all open to it, but yeah,
it just seems like it'd be more of the same. But anyway, I really liked it.
Well-crafted movie that everybody... Why do you think it didn't really hit? I remember when it came out, but when it came out, I just had no interest in going and seeing this thing. A
lot of these movies that come out, it's just like, unless you are actively watching the first one, I don't know how you'd be excited to see the second one.
Yeah, and it hit.
But maybe now with streaming, because the Matrix movies, for instance, are so readily available, and promoted, even on like HBO Max or even Netflix or wherever they are, people are maybe more excited to watch Resurrections because they had the chance to see the other one. But how many people are really checking out Trainspotting around the time the sequel came out? I don't know. You tweeted that article about the guy talking about Texasville. Yeah, I thought that was really good because he had the best point in that he's like, yeah, of course it bombed. It came out in 1990, and the Last Picture Show just was not available.
Wasn't available.
Like, for people. So why would you think a sequel to a movie that nobody could see was going to work? And I'm like, well, that's a very good point.
Movies should be available to be seen by the public. I'm going to say that. That's my thing.
But now it's more of a thing. Movies are now readily available more than they've ever been now. So I could see decades later sequels working from here on out more than they've had in the past, I guess.
The writer of that article retweeted me because there was a warning. It popped up and said, a person with many, many followers has retweeted you. Would you like to limit replies to like be able to cut me off from if I had said something terrible? But yeah, it was a great article.
That's funny.
And I think it was very old.
Well, next time you need to tweet it with our podcast account. Thank you.
I'll get the social guy to do that. Account. God.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. The social guy.
I hate that guy.
We just have an AI working for us. What a dick.
So yeah, these were Trainspotting and T2 Trainspotting. What the fuck is Trainspotting? Did you bother to Google this?
I believe it was a deleted scene from the first movie, where you saw it in the second movie, though. Spud is reading one of his stories about how the four of them were at an old train station, and they ran into an old wino, and it was Begbie's father. That actually apparently was a scene that took place in the original that was cut out.
Really?
And the old wino says, "What you boys doing here? Train spotting?" That's just what he says. So that's where that comes from. But it wasn't in the first movie. But I'm not sure if they shot it and it was cut out or it was written and they didn't shoot it, but now they reshot it for this new one. But it looked like it was shot for the original and they just finally used it in this one. Whatever. I guess that's what it means. People that watch trains. People that will away their time loitering and doing shit.
Trainspotting is a colloquial 80s British term that means being obsessed with any one trivial topic, whether it be drugs, football, or Sean Connery movies.
That's funny.
And yeah, that is about all I have to add to this episode.
Well, cool. I'm glad we got to talk about Danny Boyle. There's other filmmakers I'd like to talk about, but they just haven't made sequels, so
I know.
It's hard to do that.
I need to revisit some Danny Boyle because he's good.
But I have a theory that living long enough and having a career long enough, every filmmaker will eventually make a sequel to one of their movies.
That's about it. I don't have anything else to talk about. You should follow us on social media. It's great. We have a guy. He's very exciting. You should review our podcast. Tell your grandmother about our podcast. Aaron, what are your final thoughts?
Nothing.
Awesome. All right. Well, bye, everybody, and have a great day.
All right. See you. Thanks. Bye.